that is too young to remember, there is Karrine Steffans, video vixen back in the day. She was the first person to spill the beans on what goes on in Hollywood, not just with Diddy, but with all of them, because she wrote a part 1 and 2. Plus, she was on Oprah. Now, everyone thought that, when she do all this tell-all, that she was going to lose her life. She's still here. She been exposed, Diddy and the whole entire industry. So, let's listen to what Karrine have to say. And I'm going to give props to Color Me Pink. Yes, she uploaded some information, brought out this video, because I was thinking about Karrine Steffans the other day. I really was. So stay tuned. Let's see what she have to say. Karrine is going to tell the story.
And if they did admit it, they called her the W word and all of that type of stuff. But she had some very interesting stories about Diddy in her book, which he denied vehemently at the time. But something told me to go back and take a listen. And literally everything that she claimed back then is the same things that are being claimed about him now in 2024. And she also exposed Irv Gotti for his pimpish ways back then and some of the sick and twisted stuff that he was into. Let's take a listen.
This is about the time I re-sparked my affair with Irv Gotti, head of the label which housed my former lover Ja Rule, as well as singer Ashanti. Gotti would call me every time he was in town, and even when he wasn't. When he called, I went to him. I did whatever he asked of me, and he would take care of me financially for the time that I spent with him and Ink. I was a part of something when I was with them, but I was also a drug addict and an alcoholic. From sun up to sundown, we were surrounded by ecstasy and cognac. It was literally there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I continued to be depressed after wrapping the movie and began to indulge even more in the dangerous habits that accompanied hanging out with this crowd. There was more sex, more intoxicants, and more unsavory behavior. I was paid to be the bad girl, but as long as I was wanted, I would have done whatever it took to stay in the mix. The things that went on while Gotti and I were together are almost unimaginable to me now, but in the haze of drug and liquor, it all seemed all right. I was being used over and over again. There was man after man, all friends and acquaintances of Gotti's. I was doing what I was told by one of the most prominent men in my life, and now was well rewarded for my misbehavior. It's no secret that Gotti is not the most sensitive person around. In fact, he can be downright brutal. It's also no secret that Gotti was married with 3 children and kept lovers all around the globe. But I was his favorite. No matter where he was in the world, he would always find his way back to me. His wife knew of me and our relationship. I wasn't in love with Gotti by any means, but he was the gatekeeper to the lifestyle to which I'd become accustomed and addicted. And because of that, Gotti was in charge. I quickly became Gotti's showpiece. He would turn other people in the industry onto me. I was his party favor and became the new form of payola with label and radio heads. Whenever there was someone who Gotti wanted to impress, he would send me to them and I would take care of them. One of those people was Sean P.Diddy Combs. It was sometime after Valentine's Day 2001, just after Diddy and Jennifer Lopez had announced their split. Gotti and I had been spending the day drinking and popping ecstasy pills, as usual. The mixture of alcohol and X often made us extremely sexual, and we would have sex all day and night. As a lover, Gotti was insatiable. The drug drove him to unbelievable heights, and soon he began experimenting with Viagra. Sex became more like a boxing match than anything else. We would compete against each other, and on most every occasion, I would win. There were a few times when he actually got up and ran, and even locked himself in the bathroom in order to get away from me. Still, at other times, he got the upper hand, and I would lie in bed, curled in a ball, feeling completely spent, which in my inebriated state turned me on even more. Gotti and I were a perfect match as lovers. On one particular night, we were riding around Beverly Hills in a limousine with Ja and other members of the Inc., and we ended up at Moomba, a club on the west side. We ventured through the club, entourage in tow, and made our way to the outdoor patio and out to the back parking lot. I stood there beside Gotti as Diddy walked up to him. They greeted each other with a slap of the right hand. Diddy held a drink in his left. He seemed to be as intoxicated as we were. I stood there looking at him while they spoke, and all of a sudden he turned and looked right at me. His conversation with Gotti was abruptly cut short as he took a few steps closer to me, grabbed my hand, and said, "I want you. Can I have you?" Then Diddy turned to Gotti and said, "My bad, dog. Is this you?" Gotti quickly said, Nah, it's cool. This is Set. She's cool people." "Can she come with me?" Diddy asked. I wanted to leave with Diddy right then. The ecstasy had me in a mood where whatever I felt normally was heightened 100%. Even the wind on my face made me orgasmic. Right there in front of me, Gotti and Diddy made arrangements for me to meet Diddy at his house in an hour. "I'll send her to you in a little bit," Gotti said. "Give me the address." I didn't understand why Gotti didn't let me go with Diddy right then, but we took the address and got back in the limo. We went back to L'Hermitage, and after we took more ecstasy, Gotti was tearing away at my clothes. Gotti had a strange bedside manner. He would get rough at times, which I could handle when we were high. He also liked to compare himself to other men. He would want to know how they were built and how they had sex. He wanted to know if I liked Diddy and if I was going to sleep with him when I got over there. "You gon' f*** good, huh?" Gotti asked. I just wanted him to hurry and shut up so I would make my way to Canyon Drive to meet up with Diddy. Gotti sent me on my way and gave me a key to his room so I wouldn't wake him when I returned. It was 4 in the morning when I pulled up to Diddy's home in my SUV. There were security guards in the driveway, all of them dressed in dark suits with their hands clasped in front of them. They stood at attention, waiting for me to approach the gate. They had been expecting me, and they let me in the gate and into the house through the garage. I stood in the hallway, waiting for Diddy. My body was hot as the drugs and alcohol continued to feed off of each other. After just a few minutes, Diddy greeted me and showed me to the nearest bedroom, where Farnsworth Bentley had been sleeping. Diddy woke him and gestured to him to leave the room. My guess was that there was someone else upstairs in Diddy's room, and that this was to be my first and final destination within the home. "So who is Gotti to you?" he asked. "And is he cool with this?" "Gotti's my boy," I said. "When I see something I want, he lets me have it." So with that slight formality out of the way, Diddy and I spent the next 15 minutes or so engaging in the usual. After the experience, he said, "You are one of the best." I said the same to him when, in actuality, he was average. Our sexual encounter was pretty straightforward, nothing out of the ordinary. Before I left, he asked me to meet him back at the house the next morning around 11:30 for brunch. I emphatically accepted and traveled back to L'Hermitage and to Gotti, who was asleep. I crawled into bed and fell asleep beside him. The next morning, Gotti wanted details. I really had nothing to say about my experience with Diddy. He was polite and gentle, and I actually preferred him as a person over Gotti, who was cocky and nasty at times. Gotti seemed a bit frustrated with my unwillingness to give details, and even more irritated by the fact that I had been invited back for brunch. He always wanted to present me as his resident, but hated it when anyone actually wanted to keep me around, which happened quite often. He almost relished the idea of people using me and then throwing me away, like yesterday's newspaper. But I was beaming from ear to ear as I got dressed and headed back to Diddy's house. Gotti left in a hurry with a look of disgust on his face, and that made me even happier. Back at Diddy's, I was received with open arms by him and his entire staff. I met him upstairs in his dressing quarters where his tailor was fitting him for the upcoming MTV Music Awards. I was awestruck by the vast array of suits, ties, shirts, and shoes. They were so obviously rich in fabric and texture, and he was handsome in everything that he tried on. I stood by the French doors, drinking in the sun, as Farnsworth Bentley sat intently on the floor next to me with his legs crossed, Indian style. He looked up at Diddy with a gleam of admiration. Everyone in the home was devoted to Diddy and catered to all his needs, and, for the afternoon, all of mine. Brunch was served on a long rectangular table in the dining room. Diddy and I sat and talked about who I was and about my relationship with Gotti. He listened but didn't have much to say. He was extremely kind, and I remember him complimenting me, saying I was very pretty and had beautiful skin. I began to understand all the hype about Diddy, why he is this pop culture icon. He's got that star quality, that something which draws people to him and makes them want to be in his space and part of his world. I was no different. By the end of the afternoon, I had become easily enamored. We arrived in Miami on December 29th. When most of the country was freezing, Miami was a balmy 80 degrees. We checked into the Turnberry Resort about a half hour from Miami Beach. Our suite overlooked the golf course and a lake, but there was one reason in particular for the trip, and that was to attend Diddy's pre-New Year's Eve party at his home and his New Year's Eve bash at the Shore Club. Diddy had no idea that I would be coming, and I hadn't seen him since earlier that year. I had not told Exhibit that Diddy and I knew each other for fear he would decide not to take me. I was looking forward to seeing Diddy again, and especially to what I knew would be the look on his face when he saw me. Finally, the moment arrived, and Exhibit and I stepped into Diddy's home. I looked around for a moment and saw a lot of people who I knew, yet I was only concerned with the host. Just as I was scanning the room for him, Diddy appeared in front of us. All of his attention was on Exhibit as he greeted him, thanking him for coming. As he moved down the line, his eyes fixed on my face and his jaw dropped. Diddy said his hellos and gave me a generous hug, then grabbed me by the hand and pulled me out to the front lawn. Diddy asked uneasily, "We're cool, right? I mean, we're friends, right?" I was confused by the line of questioning, but assured him we were, in fact, cool. He continued, "I'm saying no. You know I have kids and a mother and people who love me. I can't afford for anything to get out. I don't want them to be upset." I was still very confused, but reassured him that I would in no way try to harm him, and especially not his family and loved ones. We went back into the house and met back up with Exhibit. The look on Exhibit's face was asking, "What's going on?" And all I could do was shrug my shoulders. I had no idea. I went along to mingle with the rest of the attendees and say hello to the people I knew. Diddy and Exhibit disappeared upstairs at Diddy's request, leaving me baffled. About 45 minutes later, Exhibit came downstairs and grabbed me by my forearm, dragging me out to the front lawn. His eyes were wide and his mouth open. "What did you do to that man?" he asked. I was even more confused than ever. Exhibit went on to describe the conversation he'd had with Diddy. Diddy had warned Exhibit to be careful around me and to not let me near his home. Diddy even confided that he was in the process of buying the home we were in, but now that I had been there, he would not go through with the purchase. Then he said something even stranger. Exhibit told me that Diddy said, "She'll have you on video with fingers in your booty." By this point, Exhibit was just as confused as me. We stood on the front lawn laughing hysterically. Diddy appeared to be under the influence. But underneath the laughter, there was a serious thought running through my head. Why was Diddy this anxious around me? I remained baffled and threw the thought into the back of my mind as Exhibit and I rejoined the party. There was fabulous food and drink and plenty of other stimulation. We were all having such a good time, with maybe the exception of Farnsworth, who appeared to have gotten on Diddy's bad side that evening. We partied until the early morning and were expecting it all to come to an end when Diddy summoned Exhibit and me to join him in heading to a local nightclub. The three of us jumped into his black SUV, which was a small part of his large convoy of similar vehicles. After a short ride, we arrived at the nightclub. I don't remember the name of the club, but I do remember what it was like inside. At first, we all sat in the VIP area and cracked open a few bottles of champagne and made a toast to the new year. It felt good to be out with Exhibit and even with Diddy. We were all happy and living in the moment. All of the troubles which awaited me back in Los Angeles were just that, back in Los Angeles. The club was full of energy. The music was loud and the dance floor was packed. There were several men who were shirtless, and the few women who were there were also wearing very little. Exhibit went crazy when we got on the dance floor. Not one for dancing, I stood on the sidelines and watched him. He was so happy, so free, and enjoying his blessed life. I couldn't help but feel a little sad as the alcohol began to wear off. I wanted this moment to last forever. The laughing, the sips of premium champagne, the loud music, and carefree feelings. I stood and watched Exhibit dance and jump around, greeting the fans who reached out to him. I noticed that the majority of the men around us were gay. There were a few gay couples scattered around the club, kissing and carrying on in dark corners. There were others dancing together on the dance floor, bumping and grinding. I flagged down Exhibit to share my revelation with him. I asked him, "Look around. Do you notice anything strange about this place?" He stopped dancing and took a second to look around the room. Soon enough, it hit him. "This looks like a gay club." I responded with a grin and a nod. This was Miami after all. The grin soon turned into roaring laughter as Exhibit stood there in disbelief. "Did this just bring us to a gay club?" he asked, laughing and laying aside, for a moment, the usual macho mantle that cloaks most rappers.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about all of that.
Florida, we got invited to a Puffy party, a New Year's Eve party. Went to the party, you know.
All dudes?
Yeah, nah, it was actually a good party. You know what I'm saying? It was on South Beach, right?
Right.
So then we go to the house, and then, he invited us to the house because he wanted to go to the club after. Right? I was like, okay, cool. So Superhead is with me, you know what I'm saying? Karrine is with me, you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
Superhead.
Yeah. So she takes me, Puffy calls me outside. He's like, "Hey man, that girl you know about the girl you." I was like, "Yeah, everybody know about." You know what I'm saying? What's happening? You know, he's like, that's the devil, man. You know what I'm saying? I was like, "What you mean that's the devil?"
The devil got a pretty mouth.
Yeah, I was like, "What you mean that's the devil?" You know, and then he was like, "Yeah, man, she videotaped with his fingers in." You know what I'm saying? I was like, "What?"
Like,
Rewind. I heard a finger in the ass going, what?
She said
So Puffy tells you
she will videotape you with fingers in the, and I was like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah, what does that mean?
So then I go back and I said, "You a filmer?" No, I did ask him. He's just like, whatever. He went off and did his thing. And I was
he
like,
limping?
No.
He walked away and the nail fell out his boot.
No, I'm gonna clear it up because I'm not gonna have my name. I ain't gonna have my name out there crazy like that.
Go ahead.
So then he said. So then she said. I told him what he told me, and she was like, "Oh," she started laughing like a you later. So then I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna make a big deal of it, whatever." So then he's then I guess he's had some prior incident with her that he don't want nobody to know about. You know what I'm saying? So we get into the truck. He said, "Let's go to this club." So everybody follow the car. The car is silent. You know what I'm saying? We get to this club, and then we walk in the back way. It's a VIP lounge. Ain't nobody in there. And then the club is going. It's all jumping. And then I'm sitting there with old girl. So then he's doing his business. We go down and get a drink. We sitting there vibing to the music, and then she point over the corner. It's two dudes kissing. You know what I'm saying? It's this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay. Then there's girls in the club too, and then she pointed another direction. It's another dude over there like butt ass naked dancing. You know what I'm saying? We take off, man. You know what I'm saying? We leave the club directly. I didn't say peace to nobody. I didn't see nobody. Yeah, it was suspect. A lot of suspects.
The club
You
was
could
called.
chalk it up to being in Miami or whatever. But
Blame it on the act.
I've been in a gang. I've been in a gang of clubs, man.
The club was called
And
Zappy
I ain't never mistakenly stepped into a club having that kind of activity.
Yeah, so Karrine wasn't lying.
Okay, everyone. So I just had to run those clips because this has been going on with Diddy, and not just Diddy. This has been going on in the music industry since the beginning of time. Like I said, and as you see and heard for yourself, as a matter of fact, you could go and get the book. Karrine Steffans wrote a book. She didn't have to worry about nobody come raiding her house looking for tapes. No, she wrote 2 books. Video Vixen Part 1 and 2. Sure did. Plus, she was on Oprah talking about it. Yes. Okay, so thank y'all for watching. And she talked about everybody in the industry. So do not be surprised when whoever you see on those tapes. Because everyone that was at those parties with Diddy, his white parties, is on those tapes. Bye, babes.